everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tuber. Welcome back. If this is your third, wait, are we up to third or are we up to fourth? No, we're up to third. Yeah, my internal clock's a little off. To your third Nancy Drew season 2 episode review. Welcome back, and I got some big news for y'all. This is the biggest news that came out today. This is perfectly conveniently timed with everything going on with it being Nancy Drew Day. Obviously, of course, it was meant to. The announcement is Nancy Drew has officially been renewed for season 3. That's right. Season 3 is a go. It's a lock. I am so excited because I love it when my shows get renewed. And that means I get to review this for a whole nother year. So yes, we will be reviewing season 3 when that inevitably comes out, once season 2 has wrapped to a close. But of course, obviously, we're getting way too ahead of ourselves. As well as, I'll talk about this tomorrow, but yeah, Walker got renewed too, so that's awesome as well. A lot of other shows that I'm watching, Flash, Batwoman, Legends, all those got renewed. I'm very excited. I'm happy for that, for the cast, the crew, everyone involved in both Nancy Drew and all the other shows, that they get to continue their stories for another year. So very happy, very excited. CW always knows what they're doing, dedicating to their fans and continuing the story of the Drew crew going. But so at least I don't have to start any sort of campaign when season 2 inevitably ends. Now we'll know straight away we'll get a season 3, hopefully without a pandemic to deal with. But enough about season 3 and future stuff. Let's get down to this episode, which I just realized, yeah, I didn't DVR this episode, I just paused it, so I'm gonna turn that off. So sorry if there's no logo in the background. I was kind of running late on that. Anyway, let's get on to it. This episode this week, it's hard to say. Like, you know, I think we're starting to get a little dragged out with the Aglaria thing. It's not even a mystery anymore. It's more like, how do they survive this? And I believe this might be the weakest episode yet of the show, in my opinion. I mean, okay, not the show, I don't think so. I think of the season, and yeah, I know, I so far reviewed every episode, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, this is probably the weakest for season 2, even though, yeah, we just started the season. I always say in the start of these reviews, like, I think this is the weakest, and then as I talk about it and process my thoughts, they kind of, like, a little bit improve a little bit, so I might be changed. But I do believe that this Aglaria thing is being a little bit dragged out. I know technically we were supposed to end this already, and technically I don't remember where this ended. Like, did we end at episode 18 or episode 19 last season? That's what I'm trying to remember, because I know it was renewed up to 22. So if we did get up to 19, I don't remember. That's the thing. I think we ended at 19, or that was Riverdale. This is why the problem when I watch too much shows, everything just blends together with the episode orders. I think we stopped at episode 18. No, I think we stopped at 18. So, with that being said, I believe that we had 4 episodes. So I do believe, hopefully next week is the last week for the Aglaria stuff. Then we can move on to something else. Or they may have stretched it out because of COVID, and then this was changed to the season starter. That's in my opinion. I'm not sure. They haven't set up any sort of mysteries yet for post Aglaria, but we'll see how it goes. So, with that being said, let's get down to the Butcher recap. Let's talk about it, because my camera literally just shut off 5 times, and I'm like, I think it's telling me that let's get to the Butcher recap and talk about this entire episode. So we begin with, where do we begin? Damn, this is the problem when you watch too much. Where do we begin? I think we begin with, like, another recap via Nancy. I'm not entirely sure. I think we just begin straight at the florist, where Nancy's picking up the lead from last week that someone's leaving flowers at the graves of the previous 5 Aglaria victims that we know about. And she's trying to get some information off this florist, but she is refusing because florist client confidentiality, which I thought that was only easy for psychiatrists, but whatever. She refuses. The clerk refuses to budge, and I think we get another scene alongside at the Claw where everyone's just trying to do their own thing. It seems. George. Actually, it's funny how, like, this week Nick and George were. Nick. Oh damn! It's been so long. My head is like, I'm really out of it. Fun fact about me: I worked 8 hours today at work, so I'm sorry if my head's a little bit all over the place. Yeah, Nick and George are off. Wait, isn't Nick? Oh damn! I think it's Nick. Yeah, it's probably Nick. Nick and George are discussing finding him a permanent residence because in the last week he has crashed on George's house, and then he also crashed at Nancy's house. And he's got a lot of money, so he's got to get his own place, which frankly I should do. But anyway, so that's kind of the thing this week because George is basically focused on, hey, listen, we need to move on from the Aglaria because we're gonna beat this. We're gonna live past this thing because now that Nancy Drew's been renewed for season 3. There's absolutely no way they're going to stretch out an entire 2 more seasons in 3 days. So, well, now 2 days after this one, but so that's kind of where they're heading towards next. They're focusing on just trying to get him a house. Ace is back in kind of like a minor focus this week, well, more like medium focus, as you know, even though Ace is still wanting to be away from the Claw because of the whole meat locker thing in a few days. And yes, Bess is like basically pointing it out to everyone. Like everyone is basically off doing their own thing. They should be really focusing on what the hell they're going to do with the Aglarians if Nancy doesn't find anything. And Ace's excuse for being at work is that his mom's out of town conveniently, so he and his dad are having some arguments. So he just wants to get out of home, which honestly I can completely understand. So he's off dealing with that. So back to Nancy. She uses Ace to get the florist to kind of back away from the computer so she can check in the details. And I feel sorry for this poor florist. I mean, Ace just called like, I want to order 150 wedding flowers, and the woman's like, oh, big day. It's like, it's going to be a big payday for me. And she's like, oh God, I feel so sorry for her. Yo, this was supposed to make rent. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I sound like an asshole. I'm sorry. Nancy gets the information, and she gets a phone number, which happens to be Mr. Drew. That's right. It turns out to be Mr. Drew's number. So Nancy's obviously confused about this whole thing. It's like, why is my father giving the flowers to the Aglarian victim, not this AJ? So of course she now has to call him. And even though last week they technically showcased that there was a little step in Nancy's longer road to maybe having some sort of relationship with Mr. Drew in a post realizing she's a Hudson/Lucy's daughter world. This is definitely having to be accelerated since she's going to be the only one who's going to be able to even get any sort of information out of him. So she schedules him to come to the Claw. She tells Bess and Ace about it, and they're kind of on board. They're on board with the idea since they need to do something. Nancy talks to Mr. Drew, which he's obviously under the false pretense that this is going to be it. This is going to be like the beginning of a reconciliation between them. They can maybe move on and maybe he can move back to his own damn house. But no, it's not like that. No, Nancy immediately just questions him about the whole, why are you giving flowers to these victims? Why are you doing this? You know, and he basically admits that, yeah, like years ago he represented AJ, who's changed his last name to protect his identity, and he's also a horror writer, horror fiction, murder mystery writer. I don't know what the genre he wrote was, but Mr. Drew defended him, and then since then he's kind of just been helping out with his odds and ends since he's a recluse in the woods, which literally every single week so far we've had a reason to go back to the woods. Episode 1, there's a missing person in the woods. Episode 2, there's a freaking haunted orphanage in the woods. And now 3, there's a recluse in the woods. If this starts to be the theme in the next, let's say 2 episodes, then I'm gonna like really tweet this out to the writers. Like, why is everything at the woods? Why can't it be the town? Can we just have a town episode for like a full town episode for 1 week? I mean, come on. So then from there, yeah. So Nancy wants to meet him. He wants to like get the information so he can go talk to him. Mr. Drew is like, nope, you're not going to get the information out of me. But what I can do is I'll take you to him, and it's going to be a 2-hour ride. Which Mr. Drew is conveniently not happy because he wants to, you know, well, no, Mr. Nancy's not happy since she's not really ready to go talk about anything with him. But she has no choice. She perseveres and moves on. Also, meanwhile, Bess is kind of forming this secret backup plan behind everyone's back. Well, not everyone's back, just Nancy's back. That in case all else fails, why don't they try returning the bones, Lucy's bones, to the Aglaria? Like, if they return their offering, could they maybe just get their lives back? I mean, it is a fair assumption. So I feel like that would come to play there. And she has Ace head over to the police station to get one of the last remaining pieces that was missing from back in season 1, which I completely forgot that was the case. But So Ace goes to go in there, but it turns out his usual confidant isn't there yet. Although Ace brings a very impressive basket of baked goods, which honestly, if I was a police officer in that station, I would definitely take that bribe. I would definitely take it. So Ace manages to get into the office since he finds he's been told apparently that I don't know how this happened. I may have skipped over this part, or I briefly glanced away and I forgot. But Ace heads over to Detective Tamura's. You see, here's the thing. I'm remembering names now. I'm remembering. Takes a while, even though I briefly forgot Nick's name. So he goes to his desk. He finds the skull from Lucy. So why does he have that personally on hand? We don't know. This episode didn't clarify that. Hopefully, if I swear to God, if Lucy has like another dead brother, or something, a cousin, I'm like, oh my God, the show. So they get the skull, but meanwhile, back when Nancy and Mr. Drew's front, they managed to make it to the cabin, which Nancy somehow made it the entire trip without talking to him, which honestly, I would take that ability. I mean, no, I love my father. I love my mother's great, but I honestly would love a car ride with them where we just don't talk. Let's just get to the destination. I mean, I know that sounds kind of rude to me because, like, I am their son. I should be talking to them, and I do talk to them. It's just, I could definitely relate, So they head to the cabin. AJ doesn't let them in originally, but after a little bit of waiting, they get in. AJ's obviously not thrilled with Nancy being there, and especially once Nancy starts asking questions about the Aglaria victims, he definitely wants them to leave. Especially once like things start vibrating and the camera tone quickly changes. I'm like, wait, hold on, is something wrong here? It's like, oh yeah, something is wrong here. Some creatures are coming in, some demons, some monsters, I forgot, some spiritual beings are coming in. They're attacking the place, and AJ basically orders them to leave, but before Nancy and Mr. Drew does so, Nancy takes one of the idols, one of the necklaces that was hanging on the doorstep away, as she thinks that maybe this could be something to ward off the Aglaria. So I don't exactly know where do we go? Like, there's two directions I remember. Where is it? I forgot. I think there's a scene. I forgot. We go back to the Historical Society. They talk to the curator about this, the necklace, as well as if there's anything they could do to potentially stop it. That this could be it. So they got to do some research on it. If it could potentially ward off the Aglaria. Bess brings up her backup plan of giving the bones back to the Aglaria as a last resort. Nancy's kind of a little bit hurt that the whole Drew crew kind of went behind on it. Like, they had a whole other plan in case Nancy could have solved this one, which you shouldn't underestimate Nancy's abilities, but also you should really be aware that it was. I think it was good for them to have a backup plan just in case, just in case. So they go to figure. Even the curator is backing up the idea of it. It could be potentially as an option to work. It's plausible. So they split up there. We head back to the Drew household, where George is trying to look for a proper attire for Nick to wear for his upcoming interview, to look for a place to live in. Nick's a little bit kind of like, not bummed, but he's kind of like annoyed that like George is kind of basically forcing this on him, and he's kind of like really pushing him while they should be focusing on the other thing. And George breaks down and says like the only reason why she's doing this, that she is scared. She doesn't want to spend any time away from Nick, because if something does go wrong, they don't have that much time together. And they talk about like things they were gonna do, and it's like, this is so out of the ordinary for George. And then I remembered during this stuff, I was like, oh yeah, George went for a lot last season, and her being with Nick is something she's still dealing with, that's still new. And I don't know, it was kind of weird, like some of the lines she said, like it was just a little bit out of character, but then I remember that's her getting out of her comfort zone and her trying to explore this new area of love with Nick. And the one thing they clearly keep putting their eye on is like the bed part. And it's like George is like, if we even reach the bed. So these two are really trying to eye in the sack. And when Nancy kind of out of the house, is there time? Is it time to go? They're about to, and then Nancy just comes in while they're making out, which is kind of awkward since Nancy's already been under that blanket before with Ned. Oh, Nick, sorry, my brain is killing me. Sorry. George apologizes. They leave because they got the interview to go to. Nancy starts looking up the thing up online. Meanwhile, Mr. Drew gets a call from AJ saying that, hey, look, your daughter, she took one of the lockets, one of the pennants. You need to get that away from her. That's dangerous. He hangs up. We cut over back to Nancy's house, and she's looking up the pennant, the relic, or I forgot the name of it. The curator calls her, saying that that's dangerous. That doesn't deter spirits, that attract spirits. And conveniently enough, the spirits that were attacking the cabin in the woods, not the movie, the actual premise, comes to attack Nancy. Nancy's trying to run away, and AJ shows up to kind of help her. He somehow fends off the spirits somehow long enough for them to separate. And before Nancy's able to ask any questions, Detective Tamura and some cops show up after Mr. Drew called it in as a breaking and entering on AJ's part, so they arrest him on that. So they take him away from Nancy. Also, meanwhile, I forgot to tell you, because I remember this is kind of a medium Ace episode. Ace's father is still doing minor police work there and there, so he was at the station when Ace was there to try and get the skull back. Apparently, they were trying to plan this little dinner that was kind of a tradition weekly for their religion, because they're Jewish. Ace had to decline because, obviously, with everything going on, he needs to be there with his friends. And I kind of feel sorry for the dad, because, like, I feel like that's the part in every parent's life when they start seeing their child wanting to be with their friends than their family. And I think that's a natural thing. I just think it sucks that, now he has to go through it. So, but he accepts it, and, he just says, okay, go ahead, maybe we'll try again next week. And then we come back over. I don't even know how we got to the scene. I know. Yeah, so Nancy heads over to Ryan, I believe. Yeah, I think she goes to Ryan to ask him a favor if he has any pull left in the station, even under a new detective. And also, I completely forgot, where is the Hispanic captain, or the other guy? I completely forgot about him. He was from season 1. He was so recognizable. Like, I try to remember him from a show I watched. I cannot remember the name of the show. I know he looked familiar, but he was just not on this season. I don't know what happened to him. I need to know what happened to him. I forgot his name too. Or was he Hispanic? Or was he Native American? Jesus Christ, season 1 was so long ago. I'm sorry I'm being racially insensitive. My brain is like fried right now. So I think we just cut over to the police station next, where so Nancy heads in there while AJ's having a brief scare that, something's coming after him. He and Nancy finally talk about everything. It turns out the whole reason the Aglaria was even summoned was that, so there was a little girl. So he was part of a car accident, and he was one of the only survivors, plus this little girl, but she was badly burned, and she could have died. So he and his friends went to the Aglaria to come and heal this girl, because he felt extremely bad that he was responsible for it. Also, it turns out the girl was actually the curator from the Historical Society. So, yeah, but eventually, after 7 days, the Aglaria comes for her due, and she was going to take a life, and she took his friends' lives. And the only reason he's been able to stay alive was because of the fact that he just kept moving. He kept going on the road and not trying to stay in one place for so long. Eventually, also researching the fact how does he beat this deity, but he never found a way. He just found a way to potentially deter it using the idol, or the pennant, which will summon another being that will ward off the Aglaria, but that also gives him another problem of living with that said deity, which Jesus Christ, the way he said, like, over 40 years of dealing with this, I'm like, damn, that's not a life worth living. I mean, that's just you just trying, not wanting to die. That's not living. That's not living. AJ tells Nancy to leave after he senses the spirits coming in more strongly, so Nancy heads off. She calls Bess to kind of, like, get an update, and initially, Nancy's now on board with the whole, like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's get back the bones to the Aglaria. That's basically our only choice by this point. And hold on. Sorry, it's a long day. I need the tea. I know we head back to. There's a scene with George and Nick. I think they're at a motel, or they're at Nick's new place. I forgot what I think it's a motel, because that motel, like, I highly doubt Nick already got that all, put it out in, like, one afternoon. Which obviously they used this time period, this alone time, to finally get it on. And they were close, but then George starts remembering about the inevitable deaths that they might have if they fail to defeat the Aglaria. And so yeah, they can't go forward. And George gets cold feet, and then they have to head off to the beach where they were at the end, near the end of season 1. They return the bones. Nancy gives out some blood. Not the best way to also finally put out your for Nancy's mom. Finally putting that out to sea. So yeah, that wasn't a good night. So, but the water, seemingly the Aglaria takes the bones. So it seemed like for a while, like, did they do it? Did they actually defeat him? Is it solved? Then Detective Tamora calls in to report that AJ left. He somehow escaped the cell, and then Beth, using her like extensive fangirl knowledge of his books, deduces that he had a book he written about studying one of the characters studying the company that makes the bars, and everything about the hinges, the logs, and everything else, and that could all be keys to escaping. And cleverly enough, AJ used the hinges to escape, but before they were able to like move in on it to see how AJ escaped, they found AJ in a street, which turns out to be the same street as the Historical Society, and Nancy just realized he's gonna try and kill the curator, I think her name's Hannah, to potentially offer up to the Aglaria so he can finally be free. So they go on the hunt. They go looking for him. Nancy conveniently finds him as he's about to burn the car that she's in. He manages to talk him out of it. The others show up to go free her. AJ's kind of like a little bit defeated, but he kind of wanders, considering the fact that this is a life not living. This is not how things were supposed to go. And I think he was just a desperate man trying everything he can to survive, but now is it really worth it anymore? He also drops the pennant, and I don't think AJ takes it back. I think he just rejects it, considering the fact that with everything going on, I think his time is up. I think he's finally ready to accept things as they are. And then the Drew crew head back to the Claw for a little dessert celebrate. It's like, we did it, we solved the Aglaria mystery. And I'm like, is it really the end? I'm like, nah, this doesn't feel like the end. Like, this doesn't feel like a satisfying end. Like, there has to be more. And then they go into the Claw and like, nope, she did not accept the offering. She is even more pissed, and she basically destroys it. And the Claw's a mess again. I'm like, there's absolutely no way Nick's gonna make back his return. Absolutely no way. So they clean up the place. They're kind of figuring out what to do next, since like now that that's rejected, what other options do they have left? And they get a text on their phones that it turns out AJ died. So not having the pennant anymore, and with everything going on, the Aglaria finally got him. So he's dead. And also, conveniently enough, Bess figured that was like something that he wrote off his latest book. So another kind of suspicious thing, kind of. So the Drew crew dissipate for the night. They're kind of done. Also, yeah. Oh my god, I almost forgot. Like, I keep forgetting this is. I always champion for an Ace episode or something more Ace related. We get more Ace content in this episode, and I completely forget to talk about it. So Ace heads back to his house because he kind of felt bad for his dad to enjoy dinner. I think that's the case. And it turns out Detective Tamora is there too because he's also Jewish, supposedly. But meanwhile, Detective Tamora is aware that Ace stole the skull from him, and he was trying to get that information out of him, slowly, subconsciously, but it doesn't really work. And they end up having a very heated argument that Ace's dad has to get involved in it, even with his his muted or very restricted speaking. So they managed to get him to get Tamora out of there, since I forgot what his name. Ace's dad basically like lost him up and like, nope, you can't search anything until you have a permit or a warrant. So they managed to do that, and it's kind of nice that Ace's dad wants to get involved and he wants to help Ace, but there's nothing really he can really do. Like, there's literally nothing he can do. So yeah, I think from there, that was just me clarifying. Sorry, I forgot. Sorry. So we head back. George and Nick are about to walk back to somewhere or to home or something. She was like, nah, like, I can't let the Aglaria control my life. Like, I'm reclaiming the truck. I'm going to accept this truck. And I was like, oh, please don't tell me I'm going to have sex on the trunk. Oh my god, truck. The truck. And they have sex on the truck. And then I believe the next day, what happens the next day? I think Nancy gets like a vision or like a flashback of something about, you know, from AJ saying like you can't live your life, you know, having demons or having things unresolved, which is kind of like a little bit of a echo about how Nancy is currently doing that to both Mr. Drew and Ryan. So she decides to call up Mr. Drew to offer him the chance to help bury Lucy, give her a proper burial, which I just remembered. Aren't the Bones still involved in an active investigation? Or was that completely dropped? I don't know. So, oh no, he doesn't call. She heads over to his law firm and he agrees to go. So they head over to the woods where they presume they find a place where I think this is mostly akin to Lucy, so they use that as a burial site. Mr. Drew recommends inviting Ryan, which Nancy said already ahead of you. Ryan shows up there. It's kind of symbolic that the three of them are there to kind of bury Lucy, because you have Nancy, the daughter, you have Ryan, the father, you have Mr. Drew, who was like very close to Lucy and, you know, very close to the whole thing, and so they just bury him. And it kind of gives a little bit of closure to Nancy in a little bit. Also Bess and Ace wake up George and Nick from their lovemaking in the truck, which I'm like, I swear to God, there was probably not enough space. They should have just went back to the motel, but they didn't. Fools. So they head back to the cabin in the woods to bury the pennant, kind of give it like a proper place to like get it away from there. They also want to ransack AJ's cabin to see if there's any clues to even maybe giving them a little bit of chance to be in the glare. Maybe there's something overlooked. And they do find something. They find this like device or like, you know, wooden contraption that technically in lore, some culture, I forgot which one it was, it's apparently enough to capture spirits or deities. Well, not deities, spirits or beings, which is what they need to make. Okay, if they can't stop the Aglaria, they can trap it. And the device was left unfinished, meaning that he never got to try it. So it's like, this could be it. This could be the thing, because I think there's no loophole out of this. Like, they either die or they gotta trap it. So now trapping is their only option. But then, of course, obviously, the other demons from before, the other beings, they start returning back to the cabin to kind of, you know, return to what they were doing before. So Nancy orders everyone to get everything they can from AJ. Obviously, the prototypes or the rough, completed version of the traps. So they escape, and the Aglaria is just watching them, and it just turns to the camera, like giving his eyes, like, this is not over. This is not over. Which was kind of really creepy. It was really creepy. But, yeah, anyway, actually, the more I talk about it, I think I did enjoy this episode a little bit more. I still think it's the weakest episode of the season, but I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than I was letting it on to be. But, yeah, oh, sorry about the mic. Sorry about that. I like the fact they were tackling with more about their personal demons. And my only iffy thing is that, yeah, I get that, you know, AJ was kind of giving Nancy the advice that you should really forgive Mr. Drew or give him a chance. Same with Ryan, but I don't know. I think that's resolved a little too quickly. I mean, the season finale that we got, like, put to the point that Nancy wants a break from them, and not even like less than a week later, she's already forgiven. Maybe I'm hopeful that maybe once this whole thing is resolved, maybe Nancy will go back to her old ways, because like, well, that was kind of a life or death situation. Now we're kind of like back to normal, so like, she can be a little bit more distant again. But we'll see what happens with that. Nick and George's subplot was sweet, but I think it made sense. But it was just basically the whole reason was like, let's make them bone. Let's give them that moment, which I respect. I understand that, and they're young adults, they're teens, they're in love, but still, I still think that was like just kind of shoehorning in there to kind of give them purpose. I know that obviously they still have a role in the Aglaria stuff, but I don't know. I still felt like that stood out like a little bit like a obvious thumb. I love getting more background on Ace, or getting more about, you know, Ace-centric scenes, and, you know, obviously this wasn't the Ace episode I was expecting. I still deserve that freaking episode. But I still love, you know, seeing his dad and how sweet their relationship is, and, you know, how I just love Ace. I just love him. And I think, yeah, I think, but definitely the ending was like giving them hope that once this is all over, maybe Nancy will give this weird parental thing a chance once it's all over. There's hope there. There's still a little bit of hope, but we'll see how that goes. But I think for me, honestly, I'm going to give this episode a thumb and a half, around there. Let's say a thumb and a half. We'll set it there. And I think that's going to do it for me. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? Let me know. I'm always open to discussion out there. Did you enjoy the episode? Do you agree with me? Do you not disagree? Do you disagree with me? Just let me know. I'm always open to conversation down there. And I think that will do it for me for this week. So if you're unaware, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX, reviewing every Nancy Drew Season 2 episode. If you want to know what we're doing overall What's in the Tubes besides those episode reviews, we are doing Walker episode reviews each and every Friday morning after a brand new episode on Thursday nights on the CW, and then free the next day on the CW app and the CW.com. We're also doing Rookie Season 3 episode reviews each and every Monday morning after a brand new episode on Sunday nights on ABC, and then on Hulu the next day. We're currently on a little bit of a break on that because last week it was just normal hiatus stuff, and then Super Bowl Sunday. A lot of Sunday shows are basically like, nope, we cannot compete. Super Bowl, you win. Take all the viewers. And it was gonna be pretty awkward for me to do a review while I'm watching Super Bowl, so that would have been really awkward. So we'll be back on the week of Valentine's Day for that. So, but next week we're gonna do a quick impressions on Lost, because I watched that during December and I have some very choice comments about it. So you'll see how I talk about that. But if you don't care about Nancy Drew, you're in luck. We'll be back in next week Thursday for the next episode review. So until then, this has been What's on the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more of us, please subscribe to ActionX on youtube.com/ActionX. Ring the bell for notification when our next episode review is live, which is each and every Thursday morning. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it does help us out to get us out there to other members, other fans of the Drew crew, of Nancy Drew, who have yet to see us, and kind of grow our little corner. And follow us on Twitter to be up to date on any updates. Follow us on Twitch. And I'll see you, Drew Crew, next week on the next episode. But until then, be safe, be good to each other, and peace out.